Hello to everyone out there, and hello to my amazing female audience. I am beyond ridiculously excited to share this video with you today, for it is on the subject of understanding men. The big question that women ask. We think we do, but I have gained so much knowledge throughout my own personal journey and through the amazing David Perry that I am interviewing today. He is ridiculously knowledgeable beyond comprehension on this subject. He has the wisdom, the knowledge, he helps women, and I am super grateful and excited for this interview. He's equally a dear friend and has helped me on my healing journey, and we talk of all the questions that women ask. We will be speaking and creating a series of all the questions. So please, this is not a video to you. Think of it as a monologue. I want you to communicate when something hits home. Comment, say yes, this, whatever it is, what hits home for you, because for acknowledging it is healing you. Equally, men too, don't go away. This video is for you, for you will have an understanding of your behaviours. For men aren't aware. Some men just live with guilt, not understanding why they cheat, why they're addicted to porn. Yes, we cover those subjects: porn addiction, sex addiction, what a healthy relationship is, and so much more. So look, without further ado, allow me to introduce you to the amazing David Perry. But for anyone out there that doesn't know who I am, my name is Susie. I am a transformational coach, and my recent niche has become this, helping relationships be deeply connected so you can both show up as your authentic selves. So important. That is why relationships part, because it's either one can't or the other can't, and that just causes a rift. So don't forget to subscribe, because we are creating a series to help you on this subject, so you will receive the video when we upload each series. For it is my burning passion to help people be deeply connected, be healed on this subject, for people to live their authentic, happy life that they deserve to live. So look, enough from me. Allow me to introduce to you, I'm super excited for this interview, the amazing David Perry. Hi, David.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for agreeing to do this video with me. I am so incredibly grateful.
And I am so incredibly excited. It's so great to see you.
It's so great to see you. For everyone out there, I have known David for how long now? 15?
No, not quite 15 years. Maybe
2010. That's
2010.
2010. I remember, yeah, because that's when I actually joined Facebook. We
It
met on
just
Facebook.
feels like a long time.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It does. He's like
Yeah.
a brother to me, and I absolutely adore, love this man. And we've become very good friends over the years. And David Perry is an amazing, insightful man, as I know him, and he has a lot of wisdom through his own personal journey that he has gained. He works a lot with women. He does neuro-linguistic transformation, NLP, and helps people in relationships. So is there anything you'd like to add to that, David?
Oh yeah, it's transformational neuro-linguistic programming, or transformational NLP.
Yeah.
It's not the type of NLP that most people are familiar with, not the Tony Robbins NLP, for instance. This is a very specific and rather eccentric modality, or NLP, that comes from two places in the world. One is in the San Francisco Bay Area in California, United States, and the other one is places in Sweden. So if you want to get this kind of NLP, and even those different places have their own variations. And so being a California resident, and in the San Francisco Bay Area, I got the California flavor of transformational NLP. I also do what's called family and systemic constellations. This is this heals transgenerational trauma, addresses things what people commonly call as like generational curses.
Okay.
They're not necessarily curses. They're something else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of done. It's in a kind of a, well, it's hard to describe, but we work with the morphogenic field, which is an energy field.
Yep.
And it's a quantum field. It kind of works in some sort of magical way, and it's very powerful. And it's when whatever is holding you up on a personal level that has nothing to do with you, but is kind of bigger than you, and it's part of your family system,
Yep.
we would go into the constellation format modality and address it there.
Okay.
Because most of the trauma that we experience as people is passed down generationally. And so that is what shapes our behaviors and our identity and our belief. And I work on the level of identity and belief. My focus seems to be around helping women. It just kind of happens that way. I support women in their healing journeys and their development of themselves, healing their trauma, in their relating with men, because I'm a man and it takes one to know one.
Yes.
And I have a past, and I can relate with what men are doing, and I can offer insight and empathy to these women. And they get a different experience of a man. Oftentimes these women, they come from a background where they've had abusive relationships or emotionally unavailable men. And just by being in communication with me or working with me, they get this experience of a man who is processed, present, and empathetic, and actually understands them. So there's a lot of healing that takes place in the relationship itself. And Susie, you know this firsthand as my friend. We've known each other for a long time, how I am. And so that's kind of it just happens that way. It's what I do. I'm also very intuitive.
Yes.
I've been deep into in human behavior and behavioral science since 2009, when I got back from Iraq. I'm a veteran, two combat tours in Iraq. And so my background is in anthropology, sociology, psychology, that sort of thing, with the emphasis on trauma and addiction, and which translates into relationships and such. Yes. So I think that kind of summates it in a soundbite. And so there you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we are excited to hear from David, and the topic today is about understanding men. It is helping women. And this comes from my personal journey. It's where it's given birth from within me, and it's a burning desire to help women. I will talk more about my personal journey on another video, but for now in this video, I want David's wisdom to help the women in understanding men, why they cheat, and just understanding the male species. So are you ready for the questions, David?
I'm ready.
All right. So what do you define as cheating?
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So cheating, when you talk to people who have been cheated on by their partners, most of the time, almost every time, they're more emotionally charged around the betrayal as opposed to the actual act, because the act can vary from anything from having maybe an intimate emotional relationship, like an office husband, office wife, or confiding in another person where you're like, well, why are you so close with them and not with me? I'm your partner. And or all the way up into like having a sexual relationship or a romantic affair, but all of those things, there are various degrees of behavior, but the one commonality that you see with all of them is it's the betrayal. Yes. And so that brings us to boundaries, right? So boundaries are the framework which helps make a relationship safe. So if we agree, say you and I are, hypothetically, Susie and I, we are in a romantic monogamous committed relationship. Well, what does that mean? We get to define that, but let's just say, generally speaking, that a monogamous relationship is a committed relationship where both parties, both partners, have agreed to be sexually and emotionally exclusive to one another, and therefore we are in agreement with that. We create a energetic and verbal contract, like, I won't see anyone other than you for my emotional needs, my intimate emotional needs. I won't have any kind of sexual activity outside of our relationship. I will go directly to you for that. And you say yes, and I will do the same. There are variations because there are such things as open relationships and open marriages and all that. But for the sake of simplicity, let's just stay within that framework. Now, that being said, we engage in this relationship, we share companionship, we have long walks on the beach, we go out, we have fun times, we have a circle of friends, perhaps. We enjoy each other's companionship. We take the dog for a walk. She's such a love, right? You take your dog for a walk. We do all these different things. And then, of course, we kiss, we hug, we cuddle, we make love. That's a monogamous relationship. Now, that's what we have agreed upon. Now, if I were, for instance, I'm a man, we're talking about men who cheat.
Yes.
I step out of the relationship and I go to another woman, or even a man for that matter, because men cheat with men.
Yeah,
absolutely. And absolutely. So, and I step outside of the relationship. Now I've broken our contract. I've broken our agreement. Yeah. And so there's a betrayal, because what comes in a relationship, an intimate relationship, is vulnerability and trust. And that vulnerability and trust is based on integrity. And that integrity is what keeps the framework of safety, the container of safety within a relationship. So I would say anything that involves a violation of trust that has been previously agreed upon within the structure of the established relationship, and anytime a person or party steps outside of the integrity of that agreement, that is what I would define as cheating.
Wow, great answer. Absolutely great, insightful answer. And I know my female audience will just be absorbing and internalizing that answer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How would you describe the male species in general?
Okay. In a world of many different letters of the alphabet describing representing a person's identity, if we look at the male species and we look at very, very, we're going to go primal here. We're going to go with very, very basic, primal, simple social constructs that are not as complex with today's diverse sense of gender identity and sexual orientation. None of that. Okay, we're just going to keep it again in the very, very simple heterosexual container. Okay, now in a homosexual relationship, of course there's going to be these gender roles that are taken on, and maybe there's going to be some exchange or taking turns or whatever in all of that, and some melding and mixing and all that. But for the sake of simplicity, the male role, the male species they're physically stronger. They tend to be more logical. Now, ladies, I'm not saying that women aren't logical. We all have a masculine and we all have a feminine energy to us. We all have a creative mind and a rational mind. And so I'm not saying that just because I'm saying that there's an expression of one doesn't mean that it's not existent in the other. So I want to emphasize that, because this is not about exclusion here. This is just about focus. And so for the male, in when we look at primitive social organizations, the male role is to provide and protect. So the male role is to help bring food to the family unit or the clan or the troop or the tribe, and then also to protect against dangers, right? Because they're physically stronger, and they have that physical prowess, and so they defend against any wild animal, any threat, or even competition from other groups, right? Which that is evolved in today's since, you know, armies, right? So provide and protect to keep the society and the family unit safe. And so that's the male role. That's in the masculine. A masculine, healthy masculine. Healthy masculine is one that is a person that is centered and grounded, has a solid sense of self, has the ability to discern from safety and danger, is conscientious about his partner and his family, has a sense of family belonging and a sense of family duty, and is got that prowess to where the family will be kept safe. I'm going to go very, very basic now, because there's two things, and I think we need to address this because everything else stems from that. And so what is the purpose of an organism? An individual organism is to do two things, one in service of the other. One thing is to keep the organism safe. The second thing is in service to the first thing the first thing is in service to the second thing. Keep the organism safe so that the second thing is the species can reproduce and procreate to proliferate the species. So in other words, why are people so fascinated or so transfixed and enthralled about love and money? Love is procreation. Money is keeping the organism safe. In our complex human society, we do that. So the role typically has been the male which has evolved over time to provide safety so that the family can procreate. The female, because I don't have mammary glands that operate, must be the nurturer and the caretaker for the children, because as human beings, right, we rely on a caregiver to take care of us from the get-go up into a certain period of time, at least 10 years or so, right? Roughly thereabouts. I mean, there are situations where younger children have lived on the streets and survived, but their chances for survival are negligible. So we need caregivers to take care of us so that we can mature into functioning adults within the social framework of our quote unquote herd or society. So the male role is to provide and protect.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. What would you define as a healthy relationship? Oh no, we've covered that basically in the first question.
Like, we can expand on that. That's fine. So, I mean, we have an agreement, right? A healthy relationship is more than just a social contract.
Yeah.
A healthy relationship is one where that's based on integrity and trust. And we're in the interest of, we're talking about intimate relationships, romantic relationships, partnerships, and marriages. That are, you know, what do we choose these people to be exclusive with. We choose these people because they bring so much to the table. A healthy relationship is absolutely dependent upon a healthy sense of self, or fairly healthy sense of self.
Yes.
And that's because a sense of self is what establishes the boundaries within the framework of the relationship. You have one person and you have another person, and as individuals, they're people, and then they come together and they create a third entity, which is the relationship.
Yeah.
In order to do that, it's about, there has to be certain elements of behavior and perception of themselves and of their partner. And that requires knowing boundaries, like, please don't use my toothbrush to brush your teeth. That's a boundary. Or please don't put mustard on my sandwich because I don't like it. That's a boundary. Or to, you know, please don't cheat on me because that would hurt my feelings. That's a boundary. Please don't betray my trust because I'm being very vulnerable with you, and I just want to have this very special container of intimacy and vulnerability. So a healthy relationship is one where you have these individuals, and it could be more than binary, but where there's effective and open communication about things that may be very vulnerable to the individual. In other words, what does that mean? Well, the things that would say any kind of topic that may, in the person's mind, risk rejection through judgment, that's vulnerable. Anytime you feel something that maybe there might be some shame around it, or guilt around it, and you're like, oh, what if they don't like it? What if they don't like me for it? Being able to step forward and open up and share something of that nature, that's vulnerability.
Yeah.
And being able to express oneself openly, like, I really love heavy metal music. And the other person said, well, I don't like heavy metal music. That's vulnerable and not going along with it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's able to freely express
Yes.
one's authentic self.
Yes.
In
Absolutely.
a place where that there's acceptance of that by the other party.
Yes.
And vice versa. Also, reflection in that the person that you're relating with can relate back to you, your authentic self. You know that you're heard, you're seen, you're understood, you're accepted, and even encouraged. That's a healthy relationship, and that takes both parties.
Do you believe when a man is in a healthy relation of sorts, can step outside, be tempted by a temptress, so to speak? Because the reason I ask this is through my research of asking questions, one person came forward and asked in his environment of working 10 men. And the question was, if an attractive woman, you're in a relationship, and if an attractive woman was to present herself to you and want sex from them, they all said yes. So, okay.
They must not really care about themselves very much.
Yeah, that was my interpretation of it.
Right, and the reason why. So let me qualify my statement. So it's about values, personal values, and those personal values are based on one's self-perception and the level of esteem that they have for themselves, right? So if they value integrity, they're not going to compromise their integrity. If they don't value integrity, and if they don't have empathy. So empathy is the ability to connect to another person's experience without having that experience, but being able to understand it, and from a place of compassion and awareness, and maybe not even understanding it, but being aware that maybe someone's going through something, and see that it is, and recognize it and acknowledge it with respect. Okay, that's empathy. So a person who would say, be in a relationship, a committed relationship, let's go back to our example container, right? Committed relationship. Let's just say all these men, right? Because we're talking about cheating men. Let's say all these men were married men, or had a partnership where that container was established. We will be exclusive, we will be honest, we will share with each other and only each other these things. We will only be sexual with each other, we only have romantic feelings for each other. That's their agreement. And then they won't be tempted, because they have enough self-respect to where and they're getting their needs met. In other words, there's that reflection I was talking about.
Yeah.
So the men are being heard, they're being seen, they're being accepted, they're being understood.
Yes.
And in order for the man to do this, the man has to be safe. The same thing for women. Women, I invite you to think about, if you have needs in relationship, guess what? The man has those same needs. He may not be able to articulate them, because men have not historically or traditionally been encouraged to be emotional creatures. We can be. We have emotions, but we've not been given permission to connect to them, and that's why we act out in certain ways. So and then women can get frustrated because he won't tell me what he wants, or he won't tell me what he's feeling. And so we internalize, or we externalize, and we act out. So if he's cheating, it's because there's something going on with him that is unsatisfactory within him. And either he's not getting his needs met because he's not conveying his needs to his partner, or he's in a relationship where he's out of integrity, where his partner is not in agreement with meeting those needs, and he's not afraid to, and he's not in his masculine enough to face that. Because a man is going to speak his mind. He's going to he's going to speak his truth. He's going to stand firm in his identity. He's going to stand firm in the strength of who he is. He's going to know that, and he's going to speak his mind. not in the interest of control or exertion of power or manipulation, but simply in the interest of self-expression and of desire of what he wants. Not in an inconsiderate manner, but with consideration, compassion, but he's going to be direct. He's going to, and he's and even diplomatic. He's going to say, well, I'm going to go out on a limb. I like to be pegged. I like to be penetrated, or I like to be tied up, or I like to play a dominant role. And these are all very personal, private, sexual things.
Yeah.
And so that, and then the wife may be resistant to that, or the female partner may be resistant to that. And so this is a real need for him. Let's just say it's a real need for him.
Yeah.
And so if he's not getting this, there's a frustration that takes place.
Yeah, of course.
And so, he's in a conundrum. So what does he do? Well, then that gives him in his mind to rationalize taking license to step outside of the relationship. Another reason why he might cheat would be he has a fear of intimacy, and it's easier for him to step into a sexual experience with another person outside of the responsibility of that container, right? Outside of there's a responsibility and accountability that goes with being in a relationship. If he steps outside of it, he's not accountable to that partner. And therefore he can be freely more himself without facing rejection of that from that person. He can express himself in ways that maybe he can at home, but but there's still a cost there, because there is betrayal to his partner, and he's collecting a secret. That, and if he has any remorse or guilt about it, that can create a chasm within the framework of his committed relationship. He's out of integrity with his partner, and he has to work. He has to work to navigate whatever kind of lie he's created, lie he's created with his partner. So that creates more distance and more distance, because of course women can sense things.
Yes.
And he knows that he's out of integrity because he's cheated. And so that can create greater distance.
Yes.
Another reason is because it could be trauma based, and that all these things actually could be trauma based, where he did not have a healthy relationship with his mother. Ladies, this is it right here. This is from soup to nuts. Here you go.
There you go.
Men who have not had a nurturing, safe mother figure struggle immensely with facilitating and creating intimacy within the framework of a romantic relationship. They are more apt to be emotionally distant, dismissive of their partners, even practice infidelity as a way of protecting themselves against feelings of vulnerability. Even in a committed relationship, they may be very quick to complete sex so as not to be spending too much time in vulnerability with their partner. And when I say vulnerability, I mean the physical ecstasy of the sexual experience, because the moment a man is in physical or is in orgasm, he is most vulnerable, and those feelings can be overwhelming to a man who was not given permission as a child from his mother to feel his feelings, or was also discouraged by his father. So another thing is, if there was within the mother, she was, and this is the mother who, she's probably had trauma. Remember I said earlier in the introduction about the transgenerational trauma piece.
Yes.
So a man who had a mother who was not nurturing, or a mother who had resentment toward men, even like the boy's father, for instance, took it out on her. This is hypothetical, but it happens all too often. Takes that out, resents that resentment out on the son. The son then is longing for connection from the mother, can't get connection from the mother, goes on to hook up and develop relationships with women who are emotionally unavailable because they have their father wound. And so he steps out, either he's controlling and he's guilting, or he's in some sort of abusive kind of nature. And then he steps out of the relationship and cheats. That's extreme. The other thing is, men they would rather cheat to destroy a relationship than take on the responsibility of being accountable for their feelings and end a relationship.
Yes, sabotage.
So, right. The other piece is about men's sexuality. A little bit more about me. My history is I'm a child sex abuse survivor, which led me to early in my life, sex addiction, sex and love addiction. I was a habitual cheater. I had many affairs, not just with women, but also sexual encounters with men because I was abused by men.
Mm-hmm.
And so the men that I interacted with were men who were cheating on their wives and girlfriends because they weren't in integrity around their sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
So they would want to have sex with a man, but they couldn't tell their wives about it.
Yeah.
Or so they would sneak out and cheat with the man. So that's another reason why men would cheat. They're just not in integrity with themselves. They're not in their authentic selves.
Yeah.
And this can take on many manifestations, as in many different ways. So it's very broad, and but there's certain archetypes. Also, cheating can be a way of maintaining control and power for the man because he has a secret he can have. Or he may feel resentful toward his mother, and so this is a way that he can gain control or get back at his mother by sexually conquering a woman. But we all know that the only time that ever happens is rape, and because otherwise it's always by permission.
Yeah,
It has to be accepted by a woman.
Yes,
it's by a woman's choice, not his choice, whether or not he's accepted into her. So it's a false sense of power. It's not really a power, and he has to defer to the woman. Otherwise, it's sexual assault, and he's got to be dealt with accordingly by the laws of the land. Other reasons why men cheat: they're not standing in their masculine. They're very emasculated, and this is a way that they feel through sexual conquest is a way of exercising male sexual prowess, and it's absolutely a falsehood. It's a false assumption. It's not masculine at all. Nothing about it is masculine. Nothing about exercising one's sexual prowess is masculine. Men can have sexual prowess, but the number of notches on a man's belt does not equal his masculinity. His capacity to be present, to bear witness to a woman, to bear witness to himself, to express his true self openly and authentically, that's masculine. Because he's standing in who he is.
There's nothing more sexier than a man that is vulnerable, open, and this is what I love, this is who I am. Absolutely love that. As a woman, I speak to my fellow women out there. I think that's a beautiful part of a man when he's open and vulnerable and is given permission to be that. Is given permission, as you mentioned, to be all that he is and express all that he is without any judgments. Women, as you know, are emotional beings. This is just my take, my input on it, which I know you would agree. Women have a tendency to shut men down, to demasculate them. Why on earth would you want that? Why? How can you love something like that? What's wrong with you? All this sort of thing. They're the men that go and look outside the relationship because they're not being allowed to be themselves. We have this vision of who they are, and that vision is the traditional man. Growing up, they see their father, for example, if it was a healthy relationship, as this man, this provider. My dad wasn't ever like that. She doesn't know.
Right.
But look, I'm in agreement there that men need to express themselves fully. Now, my next question would be, do you think a man that is shut down, hasn't expressed himself, hasn't learned to be vulnerable, do you think in a comfortable relationship he's able to slowly, through the encouragement of a woman, because I'm trying to help other women out there be more open and understanding to men, to encourage them to be more open and vulnerable, by giving them a safe, non-judgmental, loving environment. Do you believe a man can become that if he's not that? to heal
Okay.
himself, maybe?
Okay. One other thing about masculinity, and I'm going to answer your question here.
Yep.
Violence is not healthy expression of masculinity any more than
Absolutely.
Violence is not a healthy expression of masculinity. It's a false sense of masculinity. So I just want to put that out there to be clear.
Yes.
Now, in response to your question, I'm just going to lead with this. Something my history teacher wrote on the board. He had a thought of the day, and he would write this thought of the day. But I was like 15 in history class in high school. And the one thought of the day that stuck with me, and it became a mantra for my own healing, is this quote: "For what I am today, shame on my parents. But if I stay that way, shame on me." End quote. Now, what does that mean? It means that no, dear, you can provide that, you can accept him for where he's at, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's ready and he's capable of relationship. He has to do his own work. He has to go and do whatever grief work he needs to do. He has to do the shadow work. He has to get in contact with his feelings. I'm not this way because all of a sudden I came back from the war in Iraq with post-traumatic stress disorder and like, I'm fine. I've done over a decade of deep healing, emotional shadow work to get through sexual trauma and combat trauma and neglect and facing my fears and sit in my terror and weep and cry and heave. I've had to use various modalities to do this. I've been in support groups for 12 years. I've had to do my work so that I can show up for you. And any man has to do that. And how can you help a man? By holding him accountable to his behavior. Bottom line. I'm not saying emasculate him like, oh, look at you, you're just such and such. No. Emasculation is part of the problem. He's already emasculated. But not allowing his unacceptable behavior to continue, and by God, don't ever think that you can change a man. You cannot change a man. You cannot heal a man by loving him. We are all responsible for our own healing. And if you believe that, then I highly encourage you to do your own healing work, because that's a very unhealthy premise.
A lot of women
We are
do
all
that.
responsible for our own healing. We all must be held accountable for our own behavior. What I will encourage you to do is something that I do, is to separate the person from the behavior and see this man as a human being with feelings, and notice and know that his feelings come from an emotional place. His behavior comes from an emotional place. And if his behavior is unhealthy, that is, it makes you cry, or it makes you black and blue, or it's destructive in some way, that means that it's coming from a wounded place. This man has emotional and spiritual injury, but it's not who he is. I like to say about myself, I am not what I've done, and I've not what's happened to me.
Yes.
I'm who I choose to be on any given day.
Yes.
And we all have that power to choose. We have the power to choose healing, and we have the power to choose denial and self-destruction. But it's not anyone else's responsibility to heal us. No woman is responsible for the health and well-being of any man. She does have an influence on those who came from her as children. She has that sort of influence. She can raise a man from a boy. She can raise a boy to be respectful, to be connected to his feelings, to be allowed to be in his emotional experience. Because when a man is able to do those things, he can then feel safe around women. That's the bottom line. We always have to remember that women are an expression of the mother. Women are a representation of the mother, no matter how integrated a man may be. He's constantly juxtaposing his wife or his partner against the imprint left on him by his experience of his mother. Sometimes he didn't have a mother, and so that can get him into trouble. But if there is a nurturing female presence in his life, then that's the imprint and the reference that he has. So you want to watch the way a man speaks about his mother. You want to watch the way he treats his mother. You want to watch the way he talks about other women. and use those things as reference points, because he's going to take, those are belief systems, those are built into his belief system. And if that belief system does not support you and augment your experience of life, does not support you, like for instance, for me, what I tell the women, I say, look, if it's important to you, it's important to me. Your happiness helps me with my happiness. I don't need you to be happy for me, but I love to see you happy. If you're thriving, then I'm overjoyed.
Yeah.
I'm solid in myself.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to leave is something from Thich Nhat Hanh. And he said, you must love in such a way that the person you love feels free.
Yes, I've heard that. So true.
Freedom of expression. So they are free to come, they are free to go, but that takes you doing your work to be solid in yourself.
Yes.
And that means they're also free to be in their wounded away from you. You can love someone and be away from them if that's what you need to do to be safe. So we can love a man, we can train a man. I was trained to be a killer, I was trained to be a soldier, I was trained, but you can't change who I am. Only I can do that.
Yes.
I make that choice. You can train a man to turn the thermostat up when you say I'm cold. You can train him to, oh, I'm hungry, to fix you something to eat or bring you a cup of tea. But you can't change him into the man that you need. And if you're doing that, then that's a call to do some work on yourself.
Yes, some inner work, definitely agree. Talking about amazing stuff here. It's going to help our fellow women out there. Thank you. This is just awesome. One last question. We'll wind up with this last question. Questions that women have actually asked me. Is it right to allow men to watch porn? And men that are obsessively maybe every day watch a porn for release, are they cheaters? Does that mean they go out there as well? Define that kind of man. This was asked.
That's wonderful. So, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
thank you for bringing that up, because I can tell you, as a man who's grown up in a sexualized society here in the United States, who has dealt with addiction to sex and love addiction as a result of sexual abuse, one of the things that my abuser did was he put on the porn.
Okay.
Here I am, a child, and I'm not even I'm not in my sexuality yet, and he's putting on pornography.
Yeah.
And so nothing about pornography equals intimacy. Yes. It's all visual stimulation, right? Yes. And so the thing is, cheating. Remember what I said at the about the first question, the container, about being in that container where there's an agreement. You're going to come to me for intimacy. You're going to come to me for that. Yeah. And first off, let me just say, women, you cannot allow your man or disallow your man from seeing porn or watching porn. He's going to do it on his own. And many a man has watched porn behind his partner's back.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I personally, as a woman, don't have a problem with a man watching porn. The reason being, as I understand men, through my personal journey, a man is visual. And if a man can turn as a means of release to porn, there's no emotional ties, no nothing. It's just a sense of release. That's how I see it. Am I correct in that?
Well, I'm not going to say you're correct or incorrect, but because that's not for me to say.
Yeah. That's not right.
I will tell you that porn addiction, pornography addiction, is one of is reached epidemic proportions in Western society.
Yeah.
And it does not serve in any way, shape, or form the feminist cause. Yes. Because what that is, it's the objectification and sexualization, i.e. dehumanization of women.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
When men are watching women having sex or performing sex acts, they don't know these women they're seeing. They don't know what they like. They don't know if they like strawberries or bananas, or if they like hot cocoa, or if they're a coffee person, or they drink only water. They don't know anything about them. In fact, their names are often stage names.
Yeah.
So there's an anonymity that's already in place in the industry.
Mm.
And so And so they're simply, they're a means to an end. And what happens is the mind biochemically, psychologically, the mind desensitizes and desensitizes and desensitizes to it. And so therefore it's like a person on drugs.
Wow.
It's expansive. So you build a tolerance to it. And so it becomes more extreme. So maybe you just watch what they call vanilla porn, just a man and a woman having intercourse. And then you watch some other variation that has to do with maybe two women and a man, or it gets into like group sex, or then it gets into interracial sex, and then it gets into some sort of kink of some sort. And then it can get into something where there's maybe some violence involved or bondage. And all these things are okay within the framework of a safe environment where there's safety and agreements and all of that. But the thing is that what it does then, the man becomes stimulated by an outside source and not his partner.
Yes. Okay.
So now he's outsourcing that need that has been established in the original agreement in the container of the relationship, someone else or something else. It's just like any other addiction, you know.
Okay.
Many of the wife of an alcoholic has said that that her alcoholic husband has cheated on her with the bottle. Porn addiction is an addiction. Yeah. It is the mistress. It is the other woman.
Okay.
And it is destructive, and it does not help women because it's not a healthy expression of women's femininity. It's exploitative. And when you look at the women who are involved in porn, they're young women, and often they end up, it is psychologically destructive.
Yes.
Emotionally destructive.
Very true.
And those women don't last very long. Also, there's drugs involved.
Yeah.
It's very exploitative. And if we want women to be empowered and connected, and have their ability to connect with men, then we need to put that aside. And as a man, I'm still under the spell of porn. And I know when I'm not feeling well, I can self-medicate with porn if I'm not even noticing it. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not even cured of that myself. Yeah. It's something that I work on. Yeah. So it's not, I don't, and I know women who enjoy porn as well. Yeah. Yeah. But all I'm saying is it's not a healthy expression of sexuality. No, honestly. No. It lacks intimacy.
It's true.
Right. It does play to exhibitionism. It does play to voyeurism in that sense. But industrialized pornography is nothing more than it's a very unhealthy expression of. And again, remember what I said about those notches in the belt? Where does the man get that kind of idea? He gets that kind of ideation from watching pornography. Oh, look at this woman screaming and hollering, and he's taking her, like, come on, man. That woman could fit a baby 10 centimeters through her vaginal wall. You think his penis is causing any kind of discomfort? No. The other thing too is that men and their value of themselves, right? We always hear with social media now with unsolicited penis photos, dick pics they call them, right? Yep. These men are measuring their worth in mere inches or centimeters, right? Yeah. They're not looking at they're dehumanizing themselves. Yes. They absolutely think all their only worth is through their sexual prowess. Yeah. They're not even seeing themselves as a human being. Yeah. And so pornography is very damaging to the human psyche in that sense. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah. So it's damaging to the male psyche. It's also damaging to the female psyche. And it does have an adverse effect on relationships. It can be inspiring for if a couple were to watch and say want to act out a fantasy of a porn scene or something like that. You have the container and the intimacy and the authentic, the communication is there, the connection is there. But even so, they're using exploitation of women as a means to inspire their sexual fantasy. So true. I never looked at it that way, but you expressing it the way you just have so beautifully has actually helped me realize that that's actually the case. You're so right. I too am guilty. I'm guilty. Have, from time to time have watched a porn as a means of, avoiding inspiration.
If you want to call it that, yeah. Now I'm just being vulnerable here myself as a woman, because we all
sure.
have our little urges from time to time, little surprise urges, and a bit of voyeuristic stimulation. I've been guilty of watching, but I know exactly what you mean, because there's an underlying something after of having watched something that eats at me, and I can't explain that. I get that sense of release, and then there's this something inside me which I just think, okay, let's just forget about it. John, feel better. Move on. But no, it's so true. I do believe my personal input as a woman, I urge people when I've helped relationships to get the spark, role playing and this and that, but it is a mutual agreement, because some women have actually told me that when I role play, I feel like my husband's with someone else and it makes me feel uncomfortable. And that's a fair enough statement. You really have to do the groundwork within yourself as a person and know that you're just showing up as an actress, but you also, I believe, in a relationship, you have the mutual agreement that, hey, we know it's you and me, but it's kind of like going back to when you're role playing or playing doctors and nurses when you were 5 years old. It's you, but you're having fun in that moment. And that's how I would tell people to enjoy role playing. Just become that actress. Give yourselves a name. It does spark fun. It doesn't mean that you're a different person, but having what you said done, people that watch porn, it can actually really dominate in a way that could either make one or the other feel, oh, okay, not sure about this, or leave them feeling
inadequate.
Not right. Pardon? Inadequate. Yeah, that's the word. Thank you. I was looking for. So,
let's think about that. So, in pornography, what are some of the prerequisites that they're, it's very, 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 very rare these days that you won't see a woman who's had her breasts augmented in pornography. At least after her first couple of films, she goes and gets them done, that she could be marketable. The same thing, and then of course the men are hand selected by their how well endowed they are. And so as a man, a man may feel very inadequate because he's seeing this man with this very large, well endowed man. Having sex with this woman, and of course she's acting, so she sounds like she's being tortured and by his large penis, when in fact she's probably not. And so the man creates this image like, oh, I have this and he has that, and I wish I had that because I'm not big enough, so I'm not good enough. Where that might not be the case at all, where his wife or his girlfriend's like, he's just perfect for her because he's him. And then maybe not everyone is built the same way, and so these women, they see the women on the porn, and they're a size 3, or they're very fit or trim because they're 20 to 25, right? And so they have like 0% body fat. They're they look like they could be a mannequin in a clothing store, and they're having sex with these men, and these women, they're most of us are average, which means we have some body fat on us. We're not fit and trim. We don't look like we just stepped off the high school graduation stage. And so, so body image, it can affect body image and self-esteem in that way by creating this false comparison with the people who are specific on this false present representation of sexuality and intimacy. It's not intimacy. False sexuality, it's doing a job. These people, they go home to they actually are married. Some of them, they go home to their partners. They're filmed by their partners are directed, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, it's not genuine intimacy. It's a false representation of sexuality. It's artificial. And so it creates this false sense of what a relationship and what intimacy and sexuality is supposed to be. It's not based in reality. It's so it's like, Star Wars is a thing. Do we walk around? Do we walk around using the Force or flying off into space on spaceships and all that, zapping people with laser guns? No, we don't do that. So that's fantasy. And the thing that's not reality. And so pornography, that's not reality. That's not real sexual connection through emotional intimacy. And the sexual connection happens before you ever take off your clothes, because it's facilitated by a bond that's created between the people before they ever get sexual.
Absolutely.
That's real intimacy. That's real sexual intimacy.
Yes. David, thank you. I want to continue this on our next video, this subject, because I have a big add-on to what we're discussing. And I think it will be of benefit to women too, where I will share my input and my journey and everything that I have gained and learned, and with the insightful wisdom of David here. You've just been amazing with everything that you have shared here and have helped so many women already. And I'm really excited for the next video already to continue to help women understand men and their relationships and the sexual aspect of it, which is important in a relationship. So important. We will continue this.
To be continued, yes.
To be continued.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And you're welcome. So if you want, I'm on Instagram as in David Calikiano Perry, like the Wisdom Oracle.
Yep.
Calikiano, Kalikiano. That's my middle name. Perry, Perry. Wisdom Oracles. Also on Facebook, TikTok now. Don't have anything posted there yet, but I will. Also Clapper, the new platform Clapper, I'm on there as well. So and Susie, always, thank you so much for just being here. You've been an instrumental influence on my spiritual journey with your, bestowing your Reiki healing on me so many years ago, which helped lead me on my spiritual journey, opened me up to so much. And I'm just so grateful to be here, to be of service to you and to be of service to women everywhere, to be in a solution, because women are an extension of the Mother Earth. You are an expression. Women are the creators, so they represent the creative force of nature, or of God, if you believe in God. I cannot create. I can only help with the process. I cannot nurture. Only a woman can nurture with her breasts. And so we need to take extra special loving care of the women in our lives, our sisters, our mothers, our daughters, our friends, our lovers. And it will change the face of the world we live in when we begin to treat women and see women as our fellows in humanity, and step aside so that they can take their place rightfully beside us, because we are such a better world when women have a voice and can bring their wisdom and their insight and their intuitive process. I call it womb wisdom. A woman has a womb wisdom to solve the world's problems and create solutions that we all can benefit from. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh, it's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you, David. And I will wind up, and I hope this has been, I'm sure it's been insightful to you, all you amazing women out there. And I intend to bring more value and healing and insight to you in more videos to come. And David, with David's help, thank you once again, David. It's been a great seeing you again, actually. It's been a while since
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I'll say goodbye for now. Thank you, and talk again soon. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you gained a lot from that. I know I sure did. Remember, this is not just a video. It is a monologue. You are in a safe environment here, able to show up as your authentic self. This is the beginning of your healing journey, of understanding each other and yourselves. So comment, what was your aha moment? What resonated with you? And ladies, please, what questions do you want answered? Write it in the comments. I will answer each and every one of you, for it is a discussion. We're showing up here as sisters, and we will have a conversation, and we will cover everything that you desire. But I need your input. We are a tribe here. So I look forward to hearing from you. I love you all. Take care. Bye.